Good evening and thank you for joining us. You are watching Dalsan News. I am Abdirizak Ali and here are our top stories tonight. Mogadishu sees a lull in fighting after mediation. Government accuses former Prime Minister, ex-president of coup attempt following Mogadishu clashes. Police say no protest allowed after fighting erupted in Mogadishu. Welcome back. A fragile calm has returned to Somalia's capital after hours of intense fighting between the government forces and opposition-aligned groups. Community leaders have stepped in to mediate, helping tensions in Mogadishu as security forces remain in high alert. Clashes between Somali government forces and opposition-aligned groups in Mogadishu's northern district and Holwadag areas appeared to subside on Thursday, following mediation efforts by community elders and growing pressure from international partners. According to sources, government troops withdrew from defensive positions near the residence of former Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khaire after traditional elders and respected community leaders intervened to halt the fighting, which had caused significant casualties and displaced civilians. The violence, which began on Wednesday afternoon and continued into Thursday, marked one of the most serious confrontations reported in the Somali capital in recent months. Residents reported exchanges of gunfire that disrupted daily life and forced families to flee affected neighborhoods. Sources say talks are now underway between representatives of the government and opposition groups in an effort to de-escalate tensions and prevent a further deterioration of the security situation. International concern has also intensified with key diplomatic partners including the United States and the United Kingdom calling for restraint and dialogue. Authorities have not yet released any official casualty figure, and the full extent of the damage and displacement remains unclear. Meanwhile, the federal government has accused former Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khaire and former President Sheikh Ahmed of orchestrating what it describes as an armed coup following violent confrontation that shook part of the capital. Somalia's government has accused the former Prime Minister and an ex-president of orchestrating an armed coup attempt to destabilize the country, following fierce clashes in the capital between government troops and opposition-aligned militias. The severe political crisis escalated after hours of heavy fighting around the Mogadishu residences of former Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khaire and former President Sheikh Ahmed, sparking fears of wider conflict in the volatile Horn of African nation. A strongly worded statement, Minister Fiqi likened the opposition forces to Sudan's notorious paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF), branding them to the group's Somali wing. The minister alleged that the opposition figures had mobilized heavily armed militias. Without providing evidence, Fiqi further claimed that some of the politicians involved were acting on behalf of foreign interests, alleging they had been hired by the United Arab. The government's allegations followed an equally fierce denunciation from Khaire, who accused President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud of ordering a targeted military assault to eliminate political opponents. He claimed that military drones and anti-tank weapons intended for the fight against Al-Shabaab were instead deployed against political rivals in densely populated civilians. Now, police have announced that no opposition demonstrations will be permitted in the capital city as security operations continue in the aftermath of the clashes.
ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed wuxuu u cadeynayaa bulshada Soomaaliyeed galabta abaaro 11ka galabnimo in ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed oo gudanayo waajibkiisa shaqo oo taagan bar control ay soo weerareen koox maleeshiyada oo u abaabulan qaab liddi ku ah nabadgelyada ummadda Soomaaliyeed. ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed oo gudanayo waajibkiisa ayaa ka jawaabay ficilkii guracnaa ee kooxahaas maleeshiyadka u abaabulan qaabka liddi ku ah nabadda ummadda Soomaaliyeed ee ku soo weeraray checkpointiga ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed talaabo sharci waafaqsan looga qaadi lahaa. ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed waa ay ka jawaabeen falkii guracnaa ee maleeshiyadkaas ku soo weerareen goobtaas oo loogu adeegay bulshada ummadda Soomaaliyeed amnigeedana laga sugay. dadkii soo weeraray maleeshiyadka ahaa uma kala soocin ciidanka iyo shacabka ummadda Soomaaliyeed goobtaas maray. ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed waa ka taxadireen, bulshadana waa ka badbaadiyeen. kooxihii maleeshiyadka ah ee goobtaas soo weerarayna tallaabo sharci waafaqsan ay ka qaadeen. Haddaba guud ahaan bulshada Soomaaliyeed waxaan ku wargelinaynaa in ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed oo u taagan yahay mabaadi'da sugitaanka nabadgelyada ummadda Soomaaliyeed. cid kasta oo lidi ku aan nabadgelyada ummadda Soomaaliyeed ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed tallaabo sharci waafaqsan ay ka qaadi doonaan. ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed ummadda Soomaaliyeed wakiil uguma aha ilaalinta cudurrada faafa ee waxay wakiil ugu yihiin ay u jiraan oo ay daljir ugu yihiin ilaalinta nabadgelyada ummadda Soomaaliyeed. ruux kasta ama koox kasta magacay doonto ha lahaato ee dhibaateynaysa nabadgelyada ummadda Soomaaliyeed ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed tallaabo sharci waafaqsan ay ka qaadayaan. maantay galabta wixii dhacay waa ka xunnahay wax la filayay oo laga filan karay muwaadin Soomaaliyeed inuu sameeyo ma ahayn. waxa hub culus noocyadiisa kala duwan ayagoo watay maleeshiyaadka waxay weerareen checkpointiga ciidankii ay joogeen degmada Holwadaag ku yaalay. checkpointigaas ciidanka kaliya kuma sugnay guryo iyo xaafado shacabka Soomaaliyeed ayaa ku yaalay. waxa xarumihii booliiska lagu weeraray qoryaha hubka culus ee garbaha laga gano taas oo cadeynaysa in wax loo socdo ahayn ujeedo kale ay tahay in nabadgelyada iyo xasiloonida ummadda Soomaaliyeed haysata laga hortago. haddaba waxaan leenahay ummadda Soomaaliyeed waxyaabaha noocan ah dadka sameynaya waa inay ilgooniya lahaadaan. haddana waxaan u cadeynaynaa shakhsi kasta oo ku fikiraya waxyaabaha noocaas inuu sameeyo ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed wuxuu waajib ku ah ilaalinta nabadgelyada ummadda Soomaaliyeed. wada kasta oo lagu difaaci karo nabadda ummadda Soomaaliyeed way qaadayaan. tallaabo kasta oo suuro gelin karta in ummadda Soomaaliyeed nabad ku noolaato way sameynayaan.
The United Nations, the United States and the United Kingdom have urged Somali leaders to resolve their differences through dialogue amid growing concerns over the country's stability.
The United Nations and the United Kingdom have issued strong warnings after heavy fighting broke out in Mogadishu, raising fresh concerns about Somalia's security and political stability at a critical moment for the country. Clashes erupted on Wednesday in several districts of the capital between government forces and armed groups aligned with opposition figures. The violence prompted immediate reaction from international partners who urged Somali leaders to avoid further escalation and resolve disputes through dialogue. In a statement, the U.S. Embassy in Mogadishu described the fighting as reckless and warned that actions taken in the coming days could have lasting consequences for Somalia's security, unity, and democratic future. The embassy called on all political actors to exercise restraint and prioritize peaceful engagement. The British Embassy echoed that message, condemning the violence and stressing that political disagreement should be addressed through inclusive dialogue rather than armed confrontation. According to officials, the fighting began around Dabka Junction, a key intersection in the capital. However, competing accounts have emerged over what triggered the violence. Police said armed men attacked a security checkpoint using heavy weapons, including assault rifles. Opposition figures dispute that version of events. Former Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khaire said government forces stormed a consultative meeting he was attending. According to Khaire, the gathering included traditional elders, members of parliament, opposition leaders, youth representatives, and civil society groups. Opposition leaders also accused government forces of targeting the residence of former President Sheikh Sharif Sheikh Ahmed. Authorities have not publicly responded to those claims. As the clashes spread, major roads were blocked and movement across parts of the city became difficult. Access routes to Aden Ada International Airport were also affected. Witnesses told local media that some families left their homes amid fears that the fighting could intensify. By late Wednesday evening, however, the sound of gunfire had largely faded. Traditional elders and community leaders have since been engaged in mediation efforts aimed at reducing tensions between the federal government and opposition groups. No official casualties have been released. The violence comes just a day before planned opposition demonstrations over elections, constitutional reforms, and Somalia's broader political transition. Opposition leaders accuse the government of pushing ahead with key reforms without sufficient consensus, while the government says it is implementing a one-person, one-vote system and has a responsibility to maintain public order. For ordinary Somalis, the clashes are a reminder of how quickly political disputes can affect daily life, security, and freedom of movement. Looking ahead, attention will now focus on whether ongoing mediation efforts can ease tensions and prevent further violence as Somalia navigates a crucial period in its political transition.
And that brings us to the end of this bulletin. For more news and updates, continue following our coverage across our digital platforms. On behalf of the entire news team, thank you for watching. I am Abdirizak Ali. Have a good night.